loose, and I think the looser you can start off, the better. So what I like to start with when I do stuff like that is a whole bunch of thumbnails, right? And I think everybody here is very familiar with thumbnails, and what these do for me and how I like to approach them is, like I said, be as loose as possible, but at the same time, right, what's concept art? Concept art is being able to sell an idea. At the end of the day, how you draw and the skill you draw at, I mean, I hate to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter to a huge degree. It's the ideas that you're selling, right? And how you draw and how well you draw, it just helps you sell the idea better. But at the end of the day, concept art is all about the ideas you're selling to your client. So the client would be, in my case, as a studio job, I'm selling my ideas to the game director, right? They need to be like, yeah, that's cool. I want to have that for my game. I want you to give me cool ideas that help sell this character. So when I do thumbnails and when I start sketching and I tell you guys to start loose and everything, it's all about trying to get something that in each thumbnail, as clear of an idea as I can, but as loose as possible. So maybe, example, my brief for this guy over here, right, was, I wanted to do some sort of tanky scientist dude with spiders as a theme, right? So you can see, okay, I've got spiders, I've got scientists, and I've got tank. What can I try to do? How can I vary each version of my thumbnail to have as many ideas as possible? So ideas like, he's floating a little bit, right? So he's got jets streaming out of his legs in this thumbnail. That was the idea here. So I try to do that and make the pose as interesting as possible in each of these thumbnails. So as much as I can vary them, I vary them up, right? Like, if I can make a little tweak in the face, he's got bushy eyebrows here, big beard over here. But over here, he's got a more like a receding hairline kind of an idea. So as much as I can vary up these thumbnails, that's what I'll do. And that's the most important part of this stage of the process, right? In the very beginning thumbnail. So as varied as possible, different poses and different ideas that you can sprinkle in, right? So the idea here for this guy, for this thumbnail, is that he's a scientist dude, but at the same time he spawns a lot of baby spider droids from his spider butt, right? So that's the idea here. And yeah, he's got robotic entrails coming out of his spine as they're connected to the machine, whatever it is. So at this stage, right, like you can tell, I'm not caring a lot about all the details at all. Like all of this is just whatever I can scribble in to suggest some detail here and there, to suggest that, yeah, this is like a techie thing. This is like a robotic kind of thing. That's all I need, right? So keep it simple, keep it loose, and most importantly, keep it varied. And at the same time, inject as much idea as you can. The idea, as long as it's suggested, it doesn't have to be drawn really well, right? So these are the ideas that I came up with for this spider dude guy. One thing I want to do is break down a bit of this thumbnail drawing process for you guys, right? So how I go about drawing each of these thumbnails, and okay, to give you guys context, a page of these, I think in a professional setting, how I think an artist, how much time would I give an artist to do this if I wanted to look at thumbnails? I would say maybe a week to a week and a half, you know? So you don't think that you have to churn out, your brain has to work at 9,000 miles an hour and come up with these, in a day, right? That would be impossible for anybody to do. If a client came to you and asked you for a page like that in a day, tell them thank you, but I don't think I'll be taking the job, because clients like that probably don't really know what they're asking for, right? To break down the process for you a little bit, right? So step one, what I would always like to do, and do it as fast as I could, and if I were just to scribble on the side over here for you guys to see like the speed that I like to go at, or maybe as much as you guys can do, like you give yourselves, okay, yeah, I made a few marks, right? And it doesn't really form anything right now, but do your best to not keep doing the undo thing. I do that all the time, and it's the worst, right? It really slows down your process. So try your best to, once you get into the flow of things, keep your lines as much as you can, even if it's scribbly, even if it's ugly, right? Like give yourselves, okay, something on the page for you to correct. So just keep those lines there, and that's how I like to do it. Then when I just get more lines coming out, like my ideas are starting to flow, what I'll do is later I'll start erasing stuff and correcting myself. But at the very beginning, you want your lines to flow as much as possible, right? So that's how I try to keep things loose in the very beginning. But of course, I'm gonna say this and tell you guys to do it, but then when you guys actually see me do it, you're gonna see me doing completely something different, and it'll be the stiffest, most ugly thing ever. So listen to what I say, don't do what I do. All right. But through my experience and through a lot of trial and error, this helps me get the most loose thumbnails ever. So when I do get into the flow of it and I'm really in the zone, that really is my experience, just keeping loose. And so step one is to really just get the feeling and pose going, right? So you can see the scribbles on this guy. It's really a bunch of scribbles, as much as loose as I can have it. But what it gets me is that, okay, he's I wanted to be a scientist dude that deals with electricity. So okay, he's got, my idea is that he's got these claws on his hands that have Tesla electricity flowing through them, right? So he does this to his victims to electrocute them. And that's okay, that's my idea. Let's keep it simple and let's start sketching. So step two of the thumbnail process, I do a little bit of what do you call this, detailing to the outfit. And here's where your brain might need to work a little harder, because I know, and even to myself, I love sci-fi, right? But sci-fi tech stuff and details and getting the details of sci-fi to even be recognizable to the viewer is the toughest thing to do. You needed to read like a cool thing, but at the same time have it be recognizable, so that when the viewer looks at it, they don't go like, huh, what am I looking at, right? So as much as possible, if I know Tesla electricity stuff, right, the visual, the iconic visual in people's heads is they see this sort of a thing, it's like that, right? They've got this ball up there, and it's got these lines across it like that. I don't know if you've seen this sort of a machinery before, but it's got electricity coming towards each other like that, right? So for me, that's the classic visual of Tesla electricity, just arcing back and forth. Okay, how can I use this sort of iconic imagery and include that in my design to have it not be too abstract to the viewer? So that's how I thought about, okay, maybe he's got these this is the sort of a backpack with turbines on it that generate electricity arcing through each other. Gives me a cool silhouette, gives me interesting tech design, but at the same time, it's still recognizable to the viewer, right? So a lot of on Overwatch, this is a lot of what we try to do. And sorry, if that's a lot of information, I'm sorry about that. I'll just try to break down what I'm thinking at this stage as much as I can. So then again, you see the lines are really loose. The flow of it, I try to make it as flowy as possible without getting too stiff or too hung up on, does this collar go around his neck in the most accurate or clean way? No, I don't give a crap. And not at this point in time, right? I try to not give a crap. You really have to force yourself to not care about the quality of the drawing. And finally, at this step here, it's okay, you've got your idea down, and you know, okay, this, if you show it to an art director, step two, right? You show it to somebody who knows art. You don't really need to explain it to them, they'll get it immediately. But if you want to show folks more in a setting where they're not too familiar with art, then I would say, you might need to take it a step even further than this. You might need to add some color to it. But for here, all I did was I connected all my lines, at the bottom. I tried to find all the holes where I can plug them. What I'll do is I'll just keep taking the magic wand, right? Let me go to the magic wand tool. Here's the wand tool here, yeah. I'll just keep selecting the background, right? I'll just keep doing this. And as long as you see that everything is the silhouette is lassoed out, that's all I need. So I just connect all my black lines as messily as I can, right? Then I fill in the color. I fill in the gray. Then that's how I get to. Sorry, I'm not familiar with Mac. Yeah, I fill in the gray, and then I also block in some really cheap and cheesy shadows. And what I do to block in the shadows, is I'm just going to use this guy here as an example, right? I just go lasso in where I think the shadow would be, and I just keep filling it in with not the gradient tool, but the paint bucket tool. Is it filling it in? There we go. Control V. So yeah, everywhere you think, might be nice. Everywhere you think might be nice to have like a bit of a shadow, right? That like I feel a bit of shadow over there. I think under the fingers to show some depth, maybe a little bit of shadow here would be great, right? So I do this sort of a thing to real quickly get me some cool form over there, and I just fill it all in like that. So Control D. If I turn that off, this is how I just keep doing my shadow process as I'm doing the whole design. So once I have that, there I have I would say functional enough thumbnail to sell to a client. Yeah, this is a character and this is a variation of it. It could be cool, but this is what I do at the very beginning. And you do this 8 or 9 times or 12 times, you get something like that, right? A page of these. And this to me, if you ask me, out of the whole process of drawing a character and designing a character, from drawing, from rendering and all that, all the way to final, what's the toughest part of the process would be this. It's the most brain-intensive process because you're just thinking and thinking and thinking, right? Not to say the other steps of the way, it's not difficult, but I would say this probably is the most difficult. So don't kill yourselves if you think that, I'm struggling so hard to get 8 to 9 meaningful thumbnails in the very beginning process. It's very hard. So another example of like a bunch of thumbnails that I also, I did try to bang these out during the class that I was teaching, trying to sell the theme was undead, ninja, and I can't remember what the other theme was. Maybe sci-fi, right? Sci-fi and robot, right? For example, it's I would say if you guys are brainstorming and using keywords in your design, like I keep saying to folks, right? Words are the most important thing when you start your process. Don't ever neglect the very beginning where you're not drawing anything yet. Just have a bunch of words that you can use to do your design, right? And when you're thinking about it, try not to use words like sci-fi, robot, and stuff like that, because that's kind of like generic. That's kind of like the glue. If you're doing anything related to Overwatch, sci-fi is the overall theme of everything. So sci-fi is like a non-theme in your word process. So don't use that, right? So maybe undead ninja thing here. So I did the same process. I tried to vary up my poses. The pose is super important, right? We vary up the poses as much as possible. I was thinking, Shinto, maybe Shinto could be really cool. So I referenced some Shinto shrines, how they tie some ropes around the tree and have like talismans around the character. So that's my idea here as well. So varying that up a little bit, how can I vary, if one idea for this thumbnail is that he's wrapping it around his waist, how do I vary it up from a second thumbnail? Maybe, he's wrapping the ropes around his chest, Something as simple as that will give you ideas and, it could be a different configuration of the same idea, right? And that could be another idea already. So don't kill yourself thinking, I have to have a drastically different idea for each thumbnail, because that can get crazy real fast. You're like, there's no way you can move on to another idea, right? If everything has to be super varied, there's no way you can get it done. Now, this is another idea, another pose. Sometimes just changing up the pose would help you. Okay, and I'll move on from this to actually going to talk about the final part, which I want to talk about rendering already, right? So once you're done with that, once you're done with the thumbnail stage, right? I would say this is the thumbnail stage. You start refining your idea, then you get to the drawing stage, right? And once you're done with the drawing of the design, then you would start rendering. And I know I'm skipping a lot of steps here because I think I want to get to the design, the lecture proper, but there is an long and arduous process getting from the thumbnail stage, like this stage over here, right, to the final design stage. And I would say the final design stage doesn't just include the flat drawing with a gray background. The final design stage is where you finally break down all of the flat color in the drawing, right? And you know exactly where on your design is, oh, it's supposed to be a lighter metal, then here's a darker metal, right? Here it's gold on her, and on this part it's where the cloth over here is a lighter gray, the cloth over here is a darker gray, maybe it's perforated. So when you figured out all these little things on your design, I would say the design is complete, and then you can start rendering, right? And hopefully that's not too much rambling of the process, but let's get on to the actual lecture of what I wanted to demo today. So this is one of my class demos I did before, and I'll use this as an example to show you how I do the rendering. So in this process, I did the design already, and I slapped on a gray silhouette of this character. And how I did it, same thing, very simple. Once, like this drawing, it looks a little bit clean, right? It's because I cleaned it up after. But earlier in the process, if it's not clean, what I do when I want to, how should I say, connect everything is that if I find holes in my drawing, for example, let me create a hole over here, right? Is it not doing that? Oops, I'm drawing it wrong here. Sorry. Undo. Oh yeah, okay, this process, caveat for this process, it's got a ton of layers, right? And it's got, and I don't name my layers, so it's a mess layer-wise. And if you guys are messy, don't worry about it, but just mentally keep track of how many layers you're using. Yeah, I'm just gonna flatten that actually. Yeah, merge these layers. So, in the very beginning, if your drawing is a bit more messier than this, like it's got breaks in the line. Come on, where is it? Oh, I've selected something. Yeah, if it's got breaks and lines, don't worry, just fill it all up, right? Just fill it in like that and do your magic wand thing again. Click, it's got the whole thing selected like that. Then go into where your negative shapes are. And negative shapes is a big deal in design, by the way. Always have like some cool areas for negative shapes. And that's where you go in and select where all your negative shapes are. And once you've selected all of that, right? I'm just gonna do a really rough version of this for right now. Once you've selected that, fill it in. Oh, wait. Select inverse, then fill it in. And you get something like that, right? So if you did it right, you probably would have gotten all your shapes filled in properly. So here you see, if you miss something out, it's fine. Right? Just undo, just go back to where your line layer was. Select the line layer, right? Where is it? Is it this guy? It should be this guy. Go with your line layer, fill it in again, and then bam, do that same process until you get to your, oops, sorry, I'm not used to that. Until you get to this guy right here. So you got this guy going. Cool. Now this is where you start designing all your color breakups, and then you get something like that, right? So what I do for this process, and it's a painful process, especially in Photoshop. Photoshop sucks for something like that. What you gotta do is, what's this? What's that? No.
Oh no. Man, you're just being attacked by this man.
Yeah. What I do is, on this gray base layer, right? This guy right here, I pick the magic wand and I go into select all these things bit by bit like that. Like that. And I clip a new layer on top of it and I fill it in. Okay, I want this little piece to be darker gray. Bam. I got it filled in. And that's the painful and long drawn out process to get all this filled in to look like that, right? But this stage is, I would say, the most important step in finalizing your design, not the rendering part, this step. Because here, if you have no time to go into a render to show, okay, the team, hey, start modeling, right? We need to get this done next, real quick. We don't need to do any more rendering or any more art on top of this this step already. It's good to go. You just gotta have a few, grab a few references, photo images. Oh, okay, this part, the metal from this part is this shiny. I want it to be this, and that. Just point it out to the modeler, they can take it and run already. They don't need any more information on top of this, right? So this is the step where you finalize all of your design. But then everything we're gonna do on top of this is just, if you have time, perfect. We'll go into this and show everybody, okay, the form curves like that, here's how everything is shiny, and we'll do it by hand, right? So this is the steps we're gonna get into right now. And what I will do at this stage is, there will be, let me turn on this thing. Yeah. Step 1, connect your lines. Step 2, fill in the silhouette. Step 3, lasso, fill in the shapes with flat color, right? Now we're gonna start step 4. What do I call, and what I call is a shadow layer. Shadow in and of itself, the word is very misleading. You guys will think, oh, I'm gonna start, how should I say, lighting the character and making sure like the character reads with beautiful shadow and light. Not so much, right? What I'm trying to do here is just define the form enough so that the modeler, when they look at the form, they know how to curve the form. They have an idea of, okay, yeah, this armor piece on the character curves this way. It doesn't really curve that way or whatever. So as long as this gives the modeler enough information, we're just gonna do it to the point where they get that information. We don't have to go too crazy with it. So how do I do that, right? And this is how it looks like when I'm done. I'll just keep toggling like this step of the way. So this is what happens there, right? But how do I do this simply? Because when I was a student, man, and I kept telling everybody, I struggle so much with color and light. I don't know how to, if the lighting is more, if it's a different lighting scenario, what color should the shadow be? What color should the light be, right? I always fight with that. But at this stage, what I'm more concerned about is the shapes. So I don't want to fight with the colors and fight with the shapes at the same time. So what do I do here, right? I take the base color, this base, and I'm gonna wave it around a little bit. This layer, right, that I've done. I use this, I duplicate it, and I put some adjustment layers on top of it, right? So I click this hue and saturation. I just created a hue and saturation layer, and I clip it on top of that guy. So what I'm gonna do is just bring down the lightness by like maybe 15 to 20, something not too drastic to not get too much contrast, right? So yeah, that's fine. That's more than enough. And what I'll do is I'll just group it, and bam, I'll call this my shadow layer, right? I'll put a layer mask on top of it, and I'll invert the mask so it just disappears completely. So this is my shadow layer. And what do I do with the shadow layer? I start painting on the mask itself. So that's what gets me all the shapes that I need to start rendering this character. So okay, I need some shadow on the face. I'll go with my hard brown brush. And by the way, guys, try not to use anything that's soft on this mask. Like, not at this stage, right? We don't want to have indecisive shapes on our shadow layer. We want all the shapes as much as possible to be crisp and sharp. That's how I like to approach it anyway. So something like that.